Are you familiar with SIDS? It is sudden infant death syndrome. It is an absolutely horrific thing with a massive death toll literally every year into the modern era. 3,400 infants mysteriously die each year to SIDS. And new research is being reported to provide for the possibility of screening for this, with the idea being that you could then prevent this from happening. So these scientists in Australia say that they've found low levels of an enzyme called BChE in the blood of children. Now that said, there's a lot of issues with this. So we have to approach this in a balanced way. There have been many people, devastatingly impacted by the sudden death of an infant due to this. There's been decades of public campaigning in a variety of different ways, try to stop these deaths from happening. So there's a lot of excitement about this new research that seems to indicate that perhaps we could screen for it. I will say, as a complete non-expert in literally anything having to do with this, all the research I've been doing into this doesn't come attached to anything that would stop it from happening once you had screened for it, which seems like a bit of an issue. And it actually turns out that some scientists are saying that this research and the screening technology that could come about as a result of the research actually could do more harm than good. We'll explain that in a little bit, but Jessica, I wanted to give you a chance to weigh in. The stakes are obviously incredibly high in trying to figure out how to stop this from happening.
Right, yeah, and pointing to the fact that this could be something genetic, they seem like they believe it's something genetic, is super interesting. And this is a callback to the earlier story of members on the floor of Congress, elected officials, asking about having an abortion when the baby's halfway out of the birthing canal or after it's already been born. The reason the right is talking about this so much is because of California Bill AB 2223. Which is a bill that intends to make sure that anyone who has a stillbirth or their baby dies of sudden infant death syndrome, they're not criminally prosecuted, because that happened in 2 cases. And so they've taken this bill and completely misconstrued what it's supposed to do. And they're saying that this is legalizing abortion during and immediately after birth. But it's included in this law that anyone is allowed to investigate the facts of a newborn child's death, law enforcement, including whether the child was born living and when the child died. So this is in no way saying that we're never going to investigate when a child dies. It's not permitting infanticide like they're trying to say. But if this is something that's genetic and science points to that, all the more reason that we would need this bill when we have people, being found guilty of criminal charges when their babies are dying of sudden infant death syndrome.
Exactly. Yeah, we have one example of that. Kathleen Folbig was convicted of murdering her 4 children. One was only 18 days old. Research has now shown that the deaths might have been genetic, and the SID study could possibly get her out of jail. She's been in jail for 2 decades, which I don't know the fact. I mean, we're only now finding out the possibility that they could identify whether this is genetic or not. But after a horrendous, imagine if this is what they are saying it is, you would lose multiple kids. The guilt you would feel wondering if you had somehow done something wrong in 1 instance, let alone 4, is unimaginable. And then to go to jail for decades over it, to feel like everyone thinks that you did this. This is one of the most horrific outcomes in terms of the justice system that I can imagine. Well, a justice system, by the way, that delivers nonstop horrific outcomes on a daily basis. This is about as bad as it could get. And so if this brings us a step closer to figuring that out, possibly clearing the record for people, that is a good thing. But like I said, we don't know for sure. The issue is that the low enzyme that they found, it isn't like a definitive thing. The enzyme can be lower in some infants that do not have SIDS than it is in those who do. So you can't even definitively say that they definitely have it. And beyond that, there's a great write-up in The Atlantic responding to the media fervor around this story, saying even if it were possible to develop a screening test, we might not want to use it. A false positive result would terrify new parents. A false negative could lead them to abandon safe sleeping practices, or far worse, make them seem at fault if SIDS did strike, because then it apparently has shown that this wasn't SIDS, except it still could be. Even true results might not be much help because early detection tests are only as good as the treatments we use in response to them. And they're not even proposing what an actual genetic treatment for this would be. What we have though are these safer sleep practices that have caused the number of SIDS deaths to drop dramatically over the past 3 decades. And people's willingness to participate in that could be hampered by the screening test. So this is a very difficult, muddy situation that doctors and advocates are gonna have to work through. But again, the stakes are incredibly high, so hopefully they will figure out a way to minimize these deaths.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.